Usually when we talk about getting a medical diagnosis, there's this very comforting expectation of precision.
Right. It feels like engineering or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like you fall off your bike, you break your arm, and the x-ray just shows that jagged white line right on the screen.
Yeah, and the doctor just points a pen at it and says, there it is. That is the problem.
Yeah, it's completely binary.
Yeah.
Broken or not broken. You put a cast on it, and, well, you move on.
It is a comforting mechanism, because we fundamentally crave that visibility. We really want our problems to be categorized.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
We want them labeled and put in a nice little box.
Exactly, a box where we can apply a direct mechanical solution.
But the moment you step out of the emergency room and step into the world of human psychology, into the absolute mess of our inner lives, suddenly that x-ray machine is broken.
Oh, it is totally useless.
Right. We're looking at a diagnostic landscape that is just incredibly murky, and we try to apply that same mechanical logic to our anxiety, our unhappiness, our feeling of being stuck.
And it just doesn't work.
It doesn't work at all. So today, we're doing a deep dive into a diagnosis of the modern human condition that is going to feel, honestly, like a splash of ice water to the face.
It really is. It's a huge wake-up call.
I want to pose a question to everyone listening, and I want you to really think about the mechanics of your daily life. Why is it that in an era where you have, more freedom, more choices, more life hacks, more apps.
More self-help tools than ever before in human history.
Exactly. Why do you likely feel more anxious and suffocated than ever?
It is the defining paradox of our time. We have optimized everything, yet the baseline feeling for so many people is just this low-grade panic.
Yeah, a constant hum of stress.
Right. And the source material we are diving into today doesn't just observe this modern anxiety. It actually diagnoses the exact hidden mechanism behind it.
And it is not what you think.
Not at all. We're unpacking a really seminal text called The Myth of Freedom and the Way of Meditation by the trailblazing Tibetan Buddhist master Chogyam Trungpa.
And his central thesis is, well, it's highly counterintuitive.
It really is. He argues that your very pursuit of freedom, the exact ways you try to optimize your mind and escape your discomfort, is the exact thing building your psychological prison.
Okay, let me stop you right there, because that sounds completely backward. From the time we're kids, we are taught that if we just find the right routine or, the right meditation retreat.
Or the right philosophy.
Yeah, or the right morning habit, we will finally be, quote-unquote, free.
We think we'll achieve this perfectly optimized state of peace.
But Trungpa is looking at this multi-billion-dollar wellness project and basically calling it a trap. He uses this phrase, spiritual materialism.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean?
So, to understand spiritual materialism, we really have to look at the metaphor he uses, which is the golden chain of spirituality.
Okay, the golden chain. Walk us through that.
Imagine you are in a prison cell, right? And you are bound to the wall by heavy, rusting iron chains.
Sounds awful.
It is. Those iron chains represent our ordinary worldly neuroses. Our obsession with money, our desperate need for status, our base resentments.
Just the ugly, heavy stuff of life.
Exactly. They are ugly, and they are holding you back. So you discover spirituality, you start meditating, doing yoga, maybe reading dense philosophical books.
Downloading all the mindfulness apps.
Right, and you feel like you're breaking out of the prison. But according to Trungpa, you aren't leaving the cell at all. You are simply trading your iron chains for a chain made of solid gold.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It is inlaid with beautiful jewels. It has intricate carvings. It's stunning to look at, and you are very proud of it.
But the punchline is that you are still chained to the wall.
Precisely. You're still imprisoned because you are using these spiritual tools to enrich your ego.
You're just building a new, shinier credential.
Exactly. A credential that says, look at me. I am a calm person. I am an enlightened person. I handle stress better than my coworkers.
Yeah, the ego loves that.
It thrives on it. As long as your approach to your inner life is based on acquiring things to make your ego feel safer or superior, it is a self-defeating process. You aren't dismantling the prison at all.
You are just interior decorating yourself.
That's exactly it.
And this is exactly why we are doing this deep dive today. The mission here is to completely strip away the romanticized, pastel-colored fluff of modern wellness culture.
Yes, we are tearing it down.
We're going to take Trungpa's text and use it to dismantle the ego brick by brick. We're going to look at the automated, underlying systems you run in your brain every single day to manufacture your own anxiety.
And we're going to uncover the profoundly simple and honestly shockingly ordinary way out.
To do that, we have to start with the first major reversal from the text. We have to completely overhaul how we view pain and discomfort.
This is a huge hurdle. The wellness industry sells us this promised land, you know. Trungpa calls it the search for Treasure Island.
Right, the idea that true awakening is this peaceful utopia where you just walk around floating on a cloud.
And you never feel angry, sad, or frustrated ever again.
Which sounds great, but Trungpa drops a very harsh truth right at the beginning.
Yeah.
He says true awakening isn't about escaping to a pristine island. It is about learning to use the garbage of your everyday life as fertilizer.
Treading any genuine path of self-discovery is, frankly, an absolute insult to the ego.
An insult. I love that phrasing.
It really is. It is
Yeah.
not a process of building yourself up into a magnificent, glowing deity who floats above the traffic jams and the annoying emails. It is a constant unmasking.
He says you have to fall down and down and down until you finally touch the ground.
Until you become the lowest of the low.
I have to admit, when I read that part, where he literally says you have to become a grain of sand, perfectly simple, with zero expectations, my modern, ambitious brain totally rebelled.
Of course it did.
Like, that sounds terrible. To the modern ear, that sounds like a total failure of life. We want to be the mountain. We want to be the CEO, the thought leader, the person standing way above the fray. We do not want to be a grain of sand.
Well, it's a completely natural reaction to recoil from that imagery. But consider the reality of being the mountain. The mountain is heavy, right?
And that's true.
The mountain is exposed to the elements. It is constantly worried about erosion, about an avalanche, about losing its peak. It is a state of constant defensive tension.
Wow. Okay, I see that.
But the grain of sand, however, is already on the ground. When you are on the ground, there is no room left for dreaming or frivolous impulses about falling.
Because you can't fall any further.
Exactly. You are finally dealing with the basic sanity of Earth. Trungpa argues that only when you give up this frantic ambition to be a pristine, untouchable being can you actually learn how to do something as simple as making a proper cup of tea.
Or walking straight without tripping over your own feet.
Right.
So to get to that grounded state, to become that grain of sand, we basically have to stop running from the garbage. We have to stop running from pain.
We do. And Trungpa breaks down the Buddhist view of suffering, which is called dukkha, into 3 distinct categories.
I found this section incredibly illuminating because he categorizes the exact flavors of anxiety we all feel every single day, but we rarely have the vocabulary to actually articulate them. Let's walk through these, starting with the baseline.
So the first category is all-pervading pain. This isn't a sharp, acute trauma like a car accident.
It's not a broken arm.
Right. This is the baseline humming anxiety of just existing. It is the fundamental frustration that results from trying to hold on to our existence.
And he uses a very visceral biological image here, right?
He does. He points out that the moment we are born, the umbilical cord is cut. That physical cut is the ultimate expression of separateness. From that exact moment on, we are fundamentally alone.
We are separate from our mothers. We are separate from the universe.
And no matter what we do, we cannot regenerate that umbilical cord.
I really love the way he describes the mundane reality of this. He says that even if you have, quote unquote, made it, like you have plenty of money, a great relationship, a nice house, your health is fine, there is still this tiny thing in your being that feels like it is in the way.
Yes, it's like you feel your own existence is slightly inconvenient.
Exactly. You're walking around as a bundle of tense muscles protecting yourself, constantly watchful in case you goof up. But you don't even know what you're going to goof up. It's just an abstract paranoia.
It is the paranoia of separateness. And because we can't stand that low-grade, all-pervading pain, we try to distract ourselves, which leads directly into the second category.
Which is the pain of alternation.
Yes. This is the exhausting cycle of contrast. Imagine you are carrying a heavy, awkward, physical burden like a massive backpack full of rocks.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
That backpack is the burden of maintaining your identity, defending your ego, doing your job, being a good person. Suddenly, for a brief moment, you get to take the backpack off. You feel completely free. You feel sane.
It's that feeling on a Friday at 5 p.m. when you finally close your laptop, the Slack notifications stop. You just drop the burden.
But that relief is temporary. Because inevitably the weekend ends. You realize you have to pick the backpack up again.
Ugh, the worst feeling.
Right. And the whiplash between feeling sane on Saturday and feeling the shadow of that burden creeping back in on Sunday afternoon, the contrast between pain And the temporary absence of pain is itself agonizing.
That is the pain of alternation.
It's the exhaustion of the cycle itself. You are constantly dropping the burden, panting in relief, and then dreading the moment you have to pick it back up.
It's literally the classic Sunday scaries. You felt free, and now the burden of Monday is looming. And that contrast makes the pain sharper than if you had just carried the backpack the whole time.
Exactly.
And then, as if the baseline paranoia and the exhausting cycle of weekend to weekday weren't enough, we arrive at the third layer.
The pain of pain.
This is the direct hit.
Yeah.
This is life just walking up and punching you in the face.
It is the compounding nature of disasters. Trungpa gives a very relatable, almost darkly comedic example in the text.
Oh, the ulcer one.
Yeah. He says, imagine you are already feeling insecure about your life. That's your all-pervading pain. Because of that worry, you develop a stress ulcer. So you are rushing out of your house to get to the doctor to get the ulcer treated, and on the way out the door, you violently stub your toe.
It's the snowball effect. Or the vacation example he gives, which I think everyone listening has experienced in some form.
Oh, for sure.
You plan this elaborate trip to Paris to escape your stress and experience some joy. You get there, but your French friend who was supposed to host you had an accident and is stuck in the hospital.
So now you have to stay in a hotel you can't really afford.
Right. You try to exchange money and you get swindled. You go to visit your friend in the hospital. Your friend is in pain and starts finding you annoying.
Just a total nightmare.
You finally give up and want to fly home, but you get to the airport and all the flights are canceled due to bad weather.
It is a cascade of suffering. But the critical insight Trungpa offers here is not just a list of bad things happening. The insight is about our reaction to those things.
Right.
Resisting the pain only increases its intensity. The more you fight the canceled flight, the more you fume over the swindle, the more you scream at your stubbed toe, the tighter the prison walls become.
Okay, I'm going to stop you and push back here on behalf of anyone listening who is thinking, you know, this is incredibly bleak.
It definitely sounds that way at first.
Like, if life is just these three heavy layers of pain, baseline existential dread, the exhausting cycle of temporary relief, and then getting swindled in Paris on top of it all, why even bother? Isn't this philosophy just a recipe for depression?
I completely understand why it sounds pessimistic, but you have to view it through the lens of what the alternative is.
Okay, what's the alternative?
The alternative is spending your entire life exhausting yourself, trying to find a mythical treasure island that does not actually exist. The alternative is believing that if you just buy one more thing or find one more life hack, you will never stub your toe or feel anxious again.
So the hope is the problem.
Yes. The profound relief of this philosophy comes from the diagnosis itself. Once you acknowledge that discontinuity, insecurity, and pain are simply the baseline facts of the human experience, you stop panicking when you encounter them.
You stop thinking, something is fundamentally broken with me because I am anxious.
No, you are anxious because you are a human being who has had their umbilical cord cut. Acknowledging the impermanence is the only way to stop fighting reality, which gives you the space to actually appreciate life.
Okay, I see what you're saying. The panic comes from the expectation that we shouldn't be in pain.
Exactly.
If we can accept the baseline of pain, the secondary panic kind of evaporates. Which brings us to the next massive shift in the book. This is the idea that you spend your entire life desperately building safety nets to catch you if you fall, completely unaware that you are already sitting perfectly safe on the ground.
Trungpa calls this the cosmic joke, and it is the foundational mechanism of samsara, which is the endless, exhausting cycle of confusion we trap ourselves in.
To understand the cosmic joke, we have to tackle the concept of egolessness, right?
Yes. And this is notoriously one of the toughest concepts for Westerners to grasp.
It's very tough because it contradicts our direct daily experience. We all feel like we have a solid, continuous personality. I am John. I am Sarah.
Right. I have these likes, these dislikes, this continuous history that stretches from my childhood to this present moment.
But Trungpa challenges this entirely. He says there is no such thing as a continuous ego or a solid soul. What we actually are is a rapid-fire succession of confusions, impulses, and thoughts.
He uses the analogy of a movie film, which I think really helps visualize it.
Break that down for us.
So think about how a physical movie projector works. If you look at a strip of physical film, it is not a moving picture. It is just a series of individual static photographs.
There's a frame, then a small black cap. Another static frame, then a gap.
Exactly. But when you run those static frames through a projector at 24 frames per second, the sheer speed generates the visual illusion of smooth, continual movement.
So, applying that to my mind, My personality is just a flicker of confusion followed by a gap, then a flicker of aggression followed by a gap, then a flicker of wanting a sandwich.
Yes, and because these tiny flashes of thought fire so insanely fast, they blur together to create the illusion of a solid me.
Wow.
In the beginning, before the projector turns on, there is just open space,
Yeah.
nothingness. But that zero-ness is terrifying to us. We have this deep, abstract paranoia that maybe we don't actually exist.
We absolutely hate the open space.
We do. So, to confirm we exist, we try to create a one. We find a reference point outside ourselves. We look at a table and say, I am here because I am looking at that table. The table is other, so I must be me.
We create the concept of two things just to confirm the existence of one thing, and then we create a third thing to confirm the second, and it just spirals.
It spirals into a massive construction project. We build floors upon floors upon floors to secure our ground. We are terrified of falling into the abyss of non-existence. So we build a floor of opinions, relationships, and status. But then we slip off the edge of that floor, we panic, and we immediately build an extension.
We spend our whole lives extending the floor, putting down hardwood, nailing in carpets, all to save ourselves from death.
And the cosmic joke is that we have been building all these floors on the ground level the entire time. There was never any abyss. There was never any danger of falling.
We are frantically laying down hardwood over a solid concrete foundation, terrified we are going to fall into the basement. But there is no basement.
It is a hilarious, tragic hoax we play on ourselves. And seeing through this hoax happens in two stages, which Trungpa maps out very carefully.
Okay, what's the first stage?
But the first stage is realizing that the ego doesn't exist as a solid entity. You see the movie frames, you realize you're just a collection of fleeting thoughts.
Okay, but here's a paradox that I struggled with while reading. If the ego doesn't exist, who is the one realizing it? Who is reading this book, sitting back and saying, wow, I have no ego?
That is the exact trap of the first stage. And it is where many spiritual seekers get stuck. You drop the concept of the ego, but you secretly keep a watcher.
Ah, watcher.
You keep a subtle congratulatory entity in the background saying, look how enlightened I am. I perceive my own egolessness. I am doing such a good job at being spiritual.
It's the golden chain again. The watcher is wearing the golden chain.
Exactly. The watcher becomes the new ego. So the second, much harder stage is dropping the watcher. True egolessness isn't just seeing that the self is an illusion. It is dissolving the perceiver of the illusion as well.
It is stepping completely into the open space without needing a commentator in your head to confirm that you did it correctly.
Precisely.
So the big question is, how does this illusion get built in the first place? How does the projector get turned on? Trungpa outlines this automated 5-step defense system that your brain runs every single second to hide you from reality.
He says if you break this code, you dismantle your inner neuroses. He calls them the 5 skandhas.
The skandhas. So these are essentially the anatomy of the ego. It is a 5-step, hyper-fast process of solidifying the illusion of me and other.
Let's walk through this process. Step 1 is form, which Trungpa translates as basic ignorance. And we need to be clear, this isn't stupidity.
No, it's not like you're dumb.
It is stubbornness.
No.
A gap occurs in our mind, a moment of pure open space. And we experience that abstract paranoia we talked about. Suppose there is no solid me. That scares me.
We ignore the open space because we refuse to accept selflessness. We desperately want to hold on to something.
Right.
Okay, I'm following the sequence, but it feels so fast. First, I get scared by the empty space. Then, to prove I exist, my immediate instinct is to grab onto something to prove I'm real. Does Trungpa talk about that reflex?
Yes, that is step 2, feeling. Once we are scared by the open space, the karmic chain reaction begins. We need a way to occupy ourselves so we don't have to face our aloneness. We need to prove we are solid.
So we reach out.
We reach out and feel our projections. We touch things outside of ourselves to reassure ourselves. We essentially say, that wall feels solid, therefore I must be solid.
We're basically pinching ourselves to make sure we're not dreaming. But we're doing it constantly, a million times a day, with every object and person we encounter.
Exactly.
Then we move to step 3, perception or impulse.
I
This is
love-
the radar system, right?
Right. Now that we feel the world, we have to develop strategies to handle it. We need to report back to central headquarters. And the ego has 3 primary impulses or radar responses: indifference, passion, and aggression.
Let's break those down because they don't mean exactly what we think they mean in common English. Like, indifference isn't just being chill, right?
Not at all. Indifference is putting on a suit of armor. It is actively numbing out sensitive areas that we think might hurt us. We selectively ignore parts of reality to maintain our bubble.
It's walking past a homeless person and literally turning your visual field off so you don't have to process the discomfort.
Exactly. And then there's passion.
What's that in this context?
Passion is the magnetizing process. We feel a sense of poverty or inadequacy, so we extend our tentacles and try to grasp things, eat things up, pull pleasurable things into our territory to make us feel rich.
It's swiping your credit card for something you don't need because the act of acquiring it makes you feel solid.
Spot on. And finally, aggression. Aggression is also based on poverty, but it's the feeling that you cannot survive unless you ward off threats.
So you're just constantly fighting.
You speed around, running faster and faster to defend yourself. The more aware you are of being threatened, the more desperate and blind the speeding becomes.
Okay, so we have the raw panic of the open space, the pinching to see if we're real, and the radar strategies of either ignoring, grabbing, or fighting.
Yep, that's the base level.
But what happens next? Because right now, I just feel like an animal reacting to stimuli. I don't feel like me. I don't feel like this highly intellectual, modern person with opinions and a 401k and a podcast. At what point does this raw panic turn into my actual personality?
That happens the second the bureaucracy steps in. Trungpa calls this next phase. Step 4, concept or intellect. Imagine you're running a massive corporation, but the frontline workers, your feelings and impulses, are just frantically throwing raw data onto your desk.
Right, it's pure chaos. You can't run a company like that. You'd lose your mind.
Exactly. So, to prevent a total mental collapse, you hire a team of middle managers. Their entire job is to take that raw, chaotic data and put labels on it. They start filing things into pigeonholes.
Give me an example of what that labeling looks like in real time.
Let's say you walk into a networking event or a party. Your radar, that third step, picks up on someone staring at you from across the room. The raw data is just eyes looking at me, elevated heart rate, slight flush in the cheeks.
This physiological responses.
If you left it there, it would just be energy. But your concept bureaucracy immediately slaps a label on it. It stamps the file. That guy is a threat. He is judging my outfit. He is a snob.
Or, conversely, it stamps it. He is attracted to me. He is a potential partner.
Precisely. By naming it, you make the illusion official. You sign the paperwork on your fake reality. You've now created a storyline where you are the protagonist and he is the antagonist, and it all happened in a microsecond.
Wow. So I'm not actually experiencing the person. I'm just experiencing the file folder my middle management brain just printed out.
That is exactly what's happening. And that brings us to the final layer, step 5, consciousness.
What does consciousness do here?
Consciousness is the culmination. It is the active, efficient mechanism that coordinates all the previous steps. It consists of our irregular thought patterns, our daydreams, our subconscious gossip.
So it's the whole ecosystem.
Right. If the thoughts are the army, the emotions are the generals directing them. And together, they form the massive, all-encompassing fantasy worlds we occupy to shield ourselves from the truth.
And this perfectly sets up the next mind-bending consequence of this whole process. Because those fantasy worlds we build in step 5, they aren't just random chaotic thoughts.
No, they fall into very specific, recognizable patterns.
In fact, Trungpa states that you don't go to heaven or hell after you die. You cycle through them before lunch.
This is his brilliant psychological interpretation of the 6 realms of Buddhist cosmology. Traditionally, in older texts, these were viewed as physical places you are reincarnated into based on your karma.
But Trungpa interprets them as profound psychological styles.
Yes. They are emotional attitudes colored by rationalizations that we use to occupy ourselves so we don't have to face our fundamental uncertainty.
We go to prison every day,
Yeah.
and we basically pick which cell block we want to hang out in. Let's walk through these because this is where everyone listening is going to feel incredibly seen and probably a little attacked. Let's start with the highest realms, which seem great on the surface. The God realm.
The God realm is fascinating because it is exactly what most people think they are trying to achieve when they get into wellness, meditation, or spirituality.
Right. We want to feel like gods. We want to be calm, blissful, completely untouched by the mundane, annoying world.
But Trungpa warns that it is a massive trap. The primary occupation of the God realm is mental fixation and self-absorption. It is the ultimate expression of spiritual materialism.
Because it's fake.
Yes. You meditate, you create an inspiring vision, you achieve a state of physical and mental bliss. But it is entirely based on ego. It is man-made. You have artificially walled yourself off from the suffering of the world to maintain your own comfort.
He calls them plastic flowers. They look beautiful, they never wilt, but they have absolutely no life in them. You are just hypnotizing yourself into a state of comfort.
And inevitably, because it is fabricated, it collapses. You stub your toe or someone insults you, and the disillusionment is agonizing because you thought you were above it all.
Then adjacent to the god realm is the Asura, or jealous god realm. The dominant characteristic here is intense paranoia.
Oh, the Asura mentality is exhausting. This is the highly efficient, hyper-competitive person in your office.
The person sending passive-aggressive Slack messages at 11 p.m.?
Exactly. They are incredibly intelligent, but their intelligence is entirely defensive and tactical. If you try to help someone in the Asura realm, they think you are being condescending or trying to infiltrate their territory.
And if you don't help them, they think you are selfish and plotting against them.
Right. Trungpa writes that you present both alternatives, and they think you are playing games with them. It's a complete no-win scenario.
And their primary element is wind. They're always speeding about, trying to achieve everything on the spot. They want a false kind of spontaneity because they're terrified of being caught off guard.
They turn all of life into a constant hostile negotiation.
Okay, now we drop down into the human realm. And this one hit me the hardest. Because Trungpa says the human realm is characterized by passion, but not in a romantic love story sense. It's an intellectual passion.
It is the relentless endeavor to achieve some high ideal. In the human realm, you are hyper-aware of the separation between yourself and what you want.
You feel inadequate, so you constantly try to magnetize the best qualities, the most sophisticated situations, the smartest people, the best ideas into your orbit.
It's the realm of the eternal seeker. It is the person whose mind is a total traffic jam of new ideas, new strategies, podcast quotes, book summaries. You're constantly trying to optimize yourself.
What makes the human realm so intellectually disturbing is that, unlike the God or Asura realms, where you at least find a solid occupation to hang on to, the human realm offers zero satisfaction.
None. It is a constant, agonizing reminder of ambition created out of suffering. You are continually searching, continually trying to improve, and never arriving. It is the mentality of poverty clothed in intellectual pursuit.
It's the feeling of, I just need to read one more book, I just need to finish this one course, and then I'll figure my life out. But the finish line keeps moving. It's a mental treadmill.
And then we have the three lower realms, which are more visceral and instinctual: the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, and the hell realm.
How does a modern person operate in the animal realm?
The animal realm is characterized by stupidity, but again, not a lack of IQ. It is a defense mechanism. It is the person who puts on blinders. They stubbornly ignore their environment and plow forward like a bulldozer.
They use mechanical busyness and routines to maintain self-deception.
If something challenges their worldview, they simply refuse to look at it. They just put their head down and say, I'm just doing my job, I'm just paying the mortgage. They completely ignore the existential void.
Just blind forward momentum.
Yeah.
Then there is the hungry ghost realm, which feels incredibly relevant in the digital age.
This is the realm of insatiable poverty. Imagine a mythological creature with a massive, empty, cavernous stomach, but a throat the size of a tiny needle.
That's a terrifying image.
No matter how much you consume, you can never feel full. You view everything and everyone as a consumable product to fill your inner void, but the grasping itself only reinforces the feeling of lack.
This is doom scrolling, buying more things on Amazon, eating more food, swiping endlessly on dating apps, looking for the next hit of dopamine, but feeling completely hollowed out and emptier afterward.
It is the ultimate addiction cycle. And finally, the hell realm.
How do we put ourselves in the hell realm before lunch?
The hell realm is the environment of pure, suffocating anger. But it's an anger that turns in on itself. You try to use aggression to destroy the things causing you pain, but the aggression itself becomes the environment.
You build walls of anger to protect yourself, and those walls close in until there's absolutely no space left.
You are trapped in a feedback loop of hatred and claustrophobia. Think of a bitter Twitter argument where you are so enraged that you physically feel hot and trapped in your own room, and every attempt to fight back just makes the prison tighter. There is no space, no air.
So to recap the horror show we've just outlined, we have this automated defense system, the Scandos, which works at lightning speed to build these elaborate prisons, the 6 realms, out of thin air, just to avoid the open space of reality.
We are exhausted.
We are totally trapped in a traffic jam of our own making, cycling from paranoia to intellectual grasping to blind anger. What is the antidote? How do we stop the projector from spinning?
Well, the modern wellness industry would tell you to go on a retreat, download a mindfulness app, or find a new stimulating philosophy. They would try to sell you a new distraction.
But Trungpa offers the ultimate modern cognitive detox. It's not an app. It is pure, unadulterated, excruciating boredom.
This brings us back to a surgery metaphor. If the ego is a physical body where the concepts are the bones, the emotions are the muscles, and the subconscious gossip is the circulatory system, then meditation is not a process of building a better body.
Meditation is an undoing process.
I really need you to explain this because I pay a lot of money to avoid boredom. I have Spotify, I have Netflix, I have podcasts. Boredom feels like a failure of imagination. Why is boredom the cure?
You are sitting on the meditation cushion, and you are taking a scalpel to the ego. You slit the skin, and you begin cutting the arteries.
You are deliberately starving the ego of the entertainment and the credentials it uses to prove it exists. Your ego demands to be entertained. It demands to be told a story about how spiritual it is or how tragic it is.
When you just sit there and focus on your breath, and nothing exciting happens, the ego begins to panic, and then it begins to cool down.
And this is where Trungpa is so funny and so cutting about how we in the West approach this concept. He talks about the American Zen trap.
It is a brilliant sociological observation.
Yeah.
He notes that in traditional Japanese Zen monasteries, meditation is just ordinary life. You work, you sit, you eat. It's profoundly boring. But when Westerners adopt it, they turn it into a militant aesthetic.
Yes, we turn it into living theater. We obsess over the exact angle of our expensive black meditation cushion. We fold the white napkin with hyper-conscious precision.
We turn the act of doing nothing into a highly dramatized performance. We're basically screaming internally, look how intensely I am experiencing this nothingness.
We use the boredom to build a new spiritual credential. I sat for 6 months in silence. I'm so hardcore.
Which completely defeats the purpose. The washer is back, writing a review of the meditation session. We are terrified of actual boredom, so we make a game out of it.
We constantly seek entertainment feed for the mind. But true boredom is repetitious and profoundly unglamorous. It is sitting with your breath over and over until the feverish need for stimulation cools down.
He uses this beautiful imagery of the mountain and the stream.
Yes, the stream doesn't get bored of flowing, it just flows. The mountain doesn't get tired of sitting there, it just sits.
True boredom allows you to finally drop your credentials.
Yeah.
You aren't trying to be a good meditator. You aren't trying to achieve a state of bliss. You are just breathing.
And in that cooling process, the mind finally finds the vast, open space of a meadow, rather than the claustrophobic pen of the ego's defenses. If you give a crazy, panicked cow a tiny pen, it will bounce off the walls. If you put it in a massive, open pasture, it will eventually calm down and just eat the grass.
Boredom is the pasture. Without this fundamental relationship with boredom, Trungpa says we are doomed to spiritual materialism.
Okay, so we sit with the boredom, we let the mind cool down, but life still happens. Chaos still happens. You still get fired. Your partner still leaves you. Your car still breaks down.
Which brings us to a really provocative question. What if having a total emotional meltdown, your life turning into a complete disaster, is actually the best news you could get for your personal growth?
To understand why chaos is an opportunity, we have to look at how we normally handle intense emotions. Normally, we operate behind what Trungpa calls the dualistic barrier. Because we are so afraid of the raw, unpredictable energy of reality, we freeze it. We conceptualize it.
We turn the rainbow colors of reality into plastic.
Precisely. We see the world as solid, with a hard metallic or plastic facade. When anger or fear arises, we immediately label it. This is bad anger. I shouldn't feel this. I need to protect myself from this.
We put a massive wall between me and the emotion. We go to war with ourselves.
And that war is agonizing. But advanced practitioners, operating from a state that Trungpa calls crazy wisdom, view chaos entirely differently. They deliver what is known as the lion's roar.
The lion's roar. I love that imagery. The lion looking in all four directions, completely without fear, with no need to protect its back. But practically, what does that mean? How do I roar at my anxiety?
The lion's roar is the fearless proclamation that every single situation, no matter how chaotic, is workable material. To get there, you have to do something radical. You don't try to destroy the emotion itself. You have to kill the conceptualized negativity.
The story we tell ourselves about the pain.
Exactly. The intellectual spin, the justification. Let's say someone insults you at work. The conceptualized negativity is the story. I am angry because he disrespected me in front of the boss, and therefore I am a victim, and my career is in jeopardy.
Trungpa says that kind of conceptualized defensive intelligence must be murdered on the spot uncompassionately. You cut through the storyline with a sharp blow.
Well, hold on. If I kill the story of why I'm angry, what's left? I'm just standing there with raw anger.
Yes, the original negativity, the raw, vibrating energy, the chaos itself. You feel the heat in your chest, the flush in your face, and when you stop fighting it and stop telling defensive stories about it, that raw energy becomes pure fuel. It becomes food.
This is the alchemy, turning lead into gold.
To the practitioner of crazy wisdom, praise and blame are identical. They are both just energy. If someone attacks you or if someone flatters you, the practitioner just consumes the energy without getting caught in the conceptual trap of good or bad.
If you drop the storyline and just feel the raw heat of the moment, nothing in the universe can defeat you, because every disaster is just more fuel to wake you up.
That is wildly empowering, but also terrifying. You are essentially stepping off the cliff and trusting that the wind will hold you. So how does this look in daily life? Because most of us aren't living on mountaintops fighting metaphorical demons. We're answering emails, doing laundry, riding the subway.
Which brings us to another counterintuitive bombshell from the text. You are more likely to find profound truth working the line in a noisy, soulless factory than sitting peacefully in an expensive meditation hall.
This addresses a huge blind spot and a pervasive snobbery in spiritual communities. Spiritual seekers often want to do deep mental or intellectual work, and they subtly look down on physical labor, on the mundane tasks of daily life. They think reality is found in high, mysterious states of mind, completely detached from the dirt of the world.
But Trungpa says, strangely enough, the profound and transcendental are to be found in the factory.
Because reality is found in how we relate to everyday earthly problems. You cannot cheat reality when you're pouring a cup of tea or sweeping a floor. You either do it properly, in direct contact with the earth, or you don't.
A single mother working a shift at a diner, completely focused on carrying the plates, balancing the tray, and serving the food, might be far more grounded in reality than the person sitting on a cushion in Bali fantasizing about their own aura.
It's the contrast between someone meditating with their head in the clouds, totally disconnected from their physical body, wrapped up in a fantasy of their own holiness, versus the traditional Japanese tea ceremony.
The tea ceremony is a perfect example of meditation in action. It is entirely about touching the earth. You deliberately collect the bowl, the napkin, the boiling water. You serve it deliberately. You clean it up deliberately. Clearing away the dishes is just as important as starting the ceremony. You are in total contact with the physical reality of the objects.
But here's my struggle with this. How do we do that without turning it into that annoying living theater we talked about earlier? Like I'm washing the dishes and I'm narrating in my head. I am washing the dish. I am feeling the warm water. I am so mindful right now. Look at me being present with this sponge.
That narration is the watcher again. The watcher has hijacked your dishwashing. The watcher is trying to secure your credentials as a highly mindful dishwasher. True integration, true awareness in work isn't about hyper-focusing on the object or intensely watching yourself perform the action. It is much more subtle.
It's about acknowledging the open space.
Yes. You don't have to try to bring about a meditative state deliberately. You just acknowledge the feeling of openness, the space around you. As you answer the email or sweep the floor, you feel the earth and the space together.
It is total involvement in the present without romanticizing it or narrating it. It's straightforward. Hot is hot. Cold is cold. The sponge is rough. No concoctions. No spiritual storyline attached to the chore.
Which prepares us for the final twist in this journey. The hero's journey, moving into the realms of the Bodhisattva and Tantra. We spend all this time dismantling the ego, dropping the watcher, facing the pain, finding the space in the boredom. And the final twist is that when you reach the pinnacle of the spiritual enlightenment, the ultimate realization isn't about you at all, because you aren't there anymore.
This is the transition from the narrow path of personal discipline to the open highway of the Bodhisattva path. A Bodhisattva is someone who has attained a level of awakening but dedicates their existence entirely to helping all sentient beings.
But not out of pity, right? That's a crucial distinction Trungpa makes. It's not a charity case.
Exactly. When we act kindly from the perspective of the ego, there's often a subtle arrogance. I am rich and sane, and you are poor and confused, so let me stoop down and help you from my high horse. We constantly check our spiritual bank account. Do I have enough sanity to give today? Will this drain me?
The poverty mentality again. We are terrified of running out of compassion.
But the Bodhisattva has broken through the dualistic barrier. They don't have to check their bank account because their richness isn't a hoarded resource. It's a fundamental state of being. They contain basic sanity, so they just give, spontaneously, without expecting anything in return, not even a thank you to validate their ego.
And their generosity might not look like gentle, soothing sweetness. Trungpa says it could be sharp or even violent, like a surgeon cutting out a tumor. They give what the situation demands, not what will superficially please someone.
And that leads to the absolute peak of the teachings. Ground Tantra.
The desolate peak.
It is the ultimate asceticism. Ground Tantra acknowledges that you are willing to have this operation without anesthetics, constantly unmasking, forever. You arrive at a lonely, desolate peak. You are living among snow-capped mountains with howling winds. It is stark and totally exposed.
Why is it so desolate? Why does the pinnacle of enlightenment sound so cold?
Because you have finally given up the very last shred of comfort. The jinba, the fixation. You have finally given up the watcher.
The internal commentator who has been with you 24 hours a day your entire life, the voice that says, I'm doing well, I am meditating correctly, I am a good person.
When you kill that watcher, you step completely out of self-deception. There's nothing left to hold on to, no credentials, no references, no safety net, no storyline of me. It is terrifying, which is why the howling winds are there, but it is also the ultimate liberation. You are fundamentally alone, but because you are no longer separate from the universe, that aloneness is absolute freedom. You are no longer defending a phantom.
Okay, let's take a deep breath and synthesize the immense face-slapping ground we've covered today. Because this text is relentless.
It leaves absolutely nowhere for the ego to hide.
It really doesn't. We started with the jarring realization that our pursuit of freedom, our wellness hacks, our apps, and our spiritual materialism is often just a golden chain, enriching the ego, keeping us imprisoned. We learned that to wake up, we have to stop escaping the 3 layers of pain, the baseline dread, the exhaustion of alternation, and the direct hits of life, and embrace the garbage of our lives as fertilizer.
We expose the cosmic joke. How we exhaust ourselves building floors of reference points to prevent a fall, never realizing we are already sitting safely on solid ground.
Right.
We saw how the continuous self is just a movie film illusion.
We decoded the 5 skandhas, the automated bureaucracy of our minds. Ignorance, feeling, perception, concept, and consciousness that builds our prisons. And we toured those prisons, the 6 realms. We realized we cycle through the paranoia of the asura, the exhausting intellectual traffic jam of the human realm, the doom-scrolling of the hungry ghost, and the plastic spiritual flowers of the god realm every single day.
We discovered that the antidote isn't more stimulation, but the cooling surgery of true, unglamorous boredom. Sitting with the mind until the panic subsides.
We learned to smash the dualistic barrier, channeling crazy wisdom and the lion's roar to kill the stories we tell about our pain and turn the raw energy of chaos into pure fuel. We found that enlightenment is more likely to happen on a factory floor or washing dishes than on a mountaintop through simple, non-narrated contact with the earth.
And finally, we followed the bodhisattva path to the desolate, howling peaks of Tantra, where we must commit the ultimate act. Killing the internal watcher and stepping fully into the fearless, raw energy of life as it actually is, without a safety net.
It's a complete dismantling of everything we thought we knew about self-improvement. Which brings me to a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over as you go about your day. We started this deep dive talking about a broken X-ray machine, the murky diagnostic waters of our inner lives, and that terrifying feeling of falling into the abyss of our own anxiety.
The panic of slipping off the floor we built.
Exactly. So here is the challenge, directly applying Trungpa's crazy wisdom to your modern life. The next time you feel completely overwhelmed by the chaos of your life, the next time you feel that baseline dread on a Sunday afternoon, or you get an email that sends you into the asura realm of paranoia, or you feel like you are plummeting through the dark without a safety net, what if you didn't scramble to build another fake floor? What if you didn't reach out to grab a distraction, or a spiritual quote, or a resentment to break your fall? What if instead you just open your eyes in the dark and realize there is no ground to hit, there is no watcher to judge the fall, and the terrifying, howling chaos itself is exactly the fuel you need to wake up?